I don't know about you, but I'm hungry for cake. I think it's time for some dessert. So welcome to Jason's Tasty Cooking. Today, I'm gonna make some carrot cake. Why? Because I like to think that carrot cake is probably the least amount, or actually the most healthiest cake you can eat. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But when it comes to baking cakes, and pretty much baking for that matter, it's pretty close to an exact recipe. It's not like cooking where you just kind of throw some ingredients together and make a pretty delicious meal. If you don't mix your ingredients correctly or have the right amount when it comes to baking cakes, especially your cupcakes, then your food really doesn't come out that great. So, what I've learned is you need a really good cookbook. So I've had the Betty Crocker cookbook since I was a kid. I use this quite often. One of my favorites also is America's Test Kitchen. Now the thing about cookbooks is you gotta be careful. Some cookbooks, they just kind of throw in recipes that have never been tested as fillers because they don't have enough to fill the book. So sometimes publishers or authors will just kind of throw a random recipe in there and you wonder why it didn't come out right. Well, it's because you were trying to fill a recipe. So now, it's much easier these days to just go online, search the recipe you want to use or what you want to cook, see all the reviews for it, and make sure it's a good recipe to start with. Now, for my carrot cake, I'm actually using the Betty Crocker. So I need to cut up my carrots here, and then I need to shred them. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop the ends off here, just so we have fresh parts of the carrot and nothing that's brown. I've already washed these, so I'm not going to peel them. You might be wondering, why aren't you peeling your carrots? There are so many chemicals. Yeah, well, the chemicals are also in the carrots. The pesticides and the fertilizers, all the stuff we put in also gets absorbed into the carrots. So might as well just enjoy the whole thing. Now I'm going to use my super duper salad shooter here. It's electric. It makes it a lot easier to shred. I'm going to go ahead and feed these right into it. And it's going to be pretty loud. So watch your ears. Well, assuming it even turns on. There we go. Okay, so my recipe calls for 3 cups of carrots, or thereabout. I'm sure that's way more than 3 cups. Is that 2 cups there? Yeah, that's probably pretty close. All right, so I'll save these for later. And now let's get our ingredients together according to the recipe that we're using. I've got my ingredients all gathered together. Now the recipe calls for sugar, eggs, flour, you have baking soda, some salt, cinnamon, and carrots, and some eggs. So anytime a recipe calls for sugar, butter, eggs, it's very important that you add the sugar first. You're going to add your eggs to the sugar. You're going to beat it nice and smooth. Now if it calls for butter, you want to beat the butter into the sugar until it's smooth, and then you add the eggs to it. So if you've ever messed up a recipe but you actually followed all the ingredients, that might be where you went wrong. So we'll add our eggs to our sugar here. And this recipe calls for 3 eggs. So we'll add those. All right, now I'm going to use my electric mixer just to speed things up here. And I am going to beat the sugar and eggs together until it's nice and smooth, and until I don't hear the crunchy, sugary sound. So it's about 1, maybe 2 minutes of mixing at medium speed. Okay, there we go. It's nice and smooth. Just gonna set this over to the side. Now the recipe also calls for oil, vegetable oil. I'm using extra virgin olive oil just because I'm told it's slightly healthier, so why not? So we're gonna add 1 cup. And now, if you're watching this outside of the United States, you're like, why aren't you measuring this stuff with a scale by weight? It's because here in the United States, we measure stuff with cups. And so that's how we make all of our stuff. We don't do weight, we do it by volume. Okay, I'll mix this up real quick. Now, anytime a recipe calls for baking soda, you're always going to add salt with the baking soda. And it's about a ratio of 1/2 to 1. So if you're doing 1 teaspoon of baking soda, it's going to be 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Our teaspoon here. Do 1 teaspoon. And then I'm going to add my 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Ooh, right there. Almost went over. And the recipe also calls for cinnamon. So while I'm adding this, I might as well add some cinnamon. And it is calling for 2 teaspoons. Well, I actually like a little more cinnamon in my cake, so I I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, hold your breath, 4 teaspoons, or 1 tablespoon, whichever one you want to count. Okay, we also have a little vanilla we're going to add to it. We'll just go ahead and pour that in. Okay, now, only thing left is flour and carrots. And the carrots are the main thing here. Let me get this on so I don't splatter inside my baking soda. Okay, cinnamon's all mixed in. Now we're going to add our flour, and the last thing is the carrots. So I'm going to do 2 cups is what it's telling me. There we go. Right there. Now recipes will tell you to add it slowly, and that's usually a good idea because when you turn your mixer on, it kind of blows a lot of dust around. So you start out nice and slow. Okay, batter's getting nice and thick now. Okay, there we go. Now the recipe calls for 3 cups of shredded carrots. So let's see how much we have here. These are from my freezer here. Got about 2 cups there. I'll go ahead and blend that in. And I'll add whatever this comes out to, the fresh one. I'll do another 2 cups, and that will be my carrot cake. I love carrots. Alright, that's nice and blended in. You could also add some nuts to it, raisins. I don't have any raisins, but I do have pecans. Also, walnuts work pretty good in this cake. So I'll just grab a couple handfuls and I will just crush the pecans in my hand here. Okay, there we go. Maybe another handful. You can also use a knife or a, they do have pecan crush or nut crushers. You can also put it in a food processor and just chop it that way. I'm just using my hand. All right, we'll mix this in and then we're ready for it to go into the cake pan. Take this off. Gotta taste it. Oh yeah, that tastes pretty good. I think the extra cinnamon was definitely a good call. Okay. I'm going to use 2 spring pans, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to make a layered cake. Let me wipe this up real quick. And the layered cake, I'm going to put cream cheese icing in the center. It's going to hold it together, and then I will top the cake with cream cheese icing. One of the reasons I really like carrot cake is because you almost always use cream cheese icing, and cream cheese icing is one of my favorites. I'm going to, almost out of oil here, nothing left. So I'm gonna oil these so it doesn't stick. And what was I saying? Oh, something about cream cheese. Oh yeah, so cream cheese, like the recipe, right? Recipe is going to call for something like some butter. You're going to have a cream cheese packet here, and then like 4 or 5 cups of sugar. I think that is way too much sugar. You could actually just use 2 cups of sugar and it still tastes pretty good. So you can also add flavor extracts like lemon, orange, all kinds of different ones to it, and it comes out pretty good. So we're going to split this in half. We're going to go between these 2 cakes. And you might be wondering, why are you using 2 different sizes? Well, you can make a towered cake, or since I don't have 2 spring pans that are the same size, you can also trim the bigger one to the size of the smaller one. So when you layer it, it lines up. Okay, and that is my plan. So I'm just gonna get all this in here. Okay, almost there. Let's scrape as much as we can. We don't want to miss our ingredients, especially since we're using 2 pans. And of course, this is one of those self-leveling batters. You just kind of shake it, and there it is right there, ready to go in the oven. And the recipe calls for 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 or 40 minutes. Now, since I split this into 2, I'm using half the batter, so it's going to be a thinner cake. So we need to check this after about 10 or 15 minutes of being in the oven, just to make sure it's not cooked all the way. We don't want to cook it too long, because then the cake ends up dry, and we don't want to eat dry cake. So we need to keep an eye on it. Okay, let's put these in the oven. It's already warmed up for us. We want the middle rack here. We're just gonna evenly space them, put it in there, and we'll check it in about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll just turn the light on and see if it's a little jiggly in the center. We don't want to shake the cake, or that's gonna make it fall and flatten. We want to be very careful when we open the oven so we don't make our cake flat. It's time to make the frosting while the cake is still baking. So I have some cream cheese, some butter, milk, sugar, and vanilla. And that's all we need. I'm going to add the cream cheese. You gotta make sure you take it out of the fridge and let it soften or warm up a bit. Otherwise, it is very hard to work with. So let me get this out of the package. I've had it out for a few hours. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. There's my cream cheese right there. That's cream cheese. We'll throw it in. All right, let's save that. I need half a stick of butter. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this in half. Ooh. Well, since it's softened, it doesn't seem to want to cut with a butter knife. Who would have ever guessed? Okay, I'm just gonna cut it in half and pull half of it off, throw it in there. There we go. And now that we have this cream cheese, might as well use it. Okay. If you have a cat or a dog, they would love to lick this. All right, so there's that. We're gonna put that in there, and we're actually going to add sugar. Now I'm using powdered sugar. Recipe calls for regular sugar, but I like to use powdered sugar. I'm gonna start off with 1 cup. I'm gonna put that in there, and I'm also going to put in my vanilla, and it's about a 1 teaspoon. And then you have a few teaspoons of milk. So let's see, what is it, like 3 teaspoons? Okay, 2 to 3. So it's just there for extra moisture to help soften it up and let it mix. So I'm gonna use my electric mixer again. We're gonna mix this up. See it mix it. Now the recipe does call for 4 cups of sugar. I am just going to use 2 cups here. Right there. That's all I'm going to put in there. And we're going to mix it some more. Now you can try it and add sugar to taste. You know, the thing about the United States here is we make all of our food, our desserts anyway, and our candies extra sugary. I'm not sure why. So when you go to another country, you're like, this isn't very sweet. Why not? Well, that is why, because we are used to so much sugar in our food. So any way you could reduce sugar, I would suggest you do that. And so we are actually going to reduce it by 2 cups. Okay. I'm going to use the knife to taste it. Oh yeah, that is good. Perfect. Okay. Now at this point, if you want your cream cheese icing to be a different color, you could add your food coloring. A couple drops, mix it in there. I actually have 2 different colors. My daughter loves pink and purple, so I have purple icing here and pink icing. Woo-hoo. We're gonna use that on the cake. So I think I just heard the timer, so let's go check it out. Let's see here. How is this cake doing? Oh yeah, I think it's done. Let's look at this. Okay, so I'm going to take a toothpick and stick it in the cake. And there's no, oops, I don't think I showed that. There, I'm going to stick it in the cake. There's no batter that comes off of it, which means it is done. So let's pull the other one out and put it over here. We can also see there's air bubbles in there, so we know the cake is done. Okay, we're gonna let it cool down. We'll pull it out of the pan. We'll add our icing, and then we'll stack our cake, and then add the icing on the outside. So, see you in a few. Our cakes are now cooled down, so I'll go ahead and take these out of the springs here. Okay. And I'm going to put these in my cake pan here. Let's see if it releases. Is it going to? Maybe. Let's try it out. Let's see. There we go. Ooh, it's stuck a little bit. All right, let's see. There we are. Right there. Let's see if this one's going to release. Maybe I should cut this loose first. There we go. I think that'll work. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Put that aside. We're going to spread some cream cheese on the top of there. Alright, so we'll spread cream cheese so we could stick our cakes together here. And if you wanted your cake nice and level and very pretty, you would take a long knife, bread knife, and just kind of cut this little bow off. But I'm okay with it being like that. So I will just leave it. Going to put this on nice and thick for this layer here. Okay, there we go. And the great thing about cake decorating is your cake could fall apart into small pieces, and you could use the icing to put it back together. That's quite amazing, huh? Icing can hide. Icing can hide a lot of stuff. So we're just gonna go ahead and put a little bit more on there on the outside here. You want it nice and thick. There we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna slap this one on. Oh yeah. This one actually came off pretty good. We'll just smack it right in there. Boom. Oh yeah. Got cream cheese on me. Okay. Now we're just gonna plop this on here. Nice and thick. And so what we're going to do, we're gonna spread this along the top and then along the edges. We'll let it run down and we'll cover our edges of the cake. So what really helps out is when you have like a lazy Susan underneath this, and you can just kind of spin it and then just make a nice circular movements that are smooth. But I don't currently have a lazy Susan with me, so I'm just gonna do this the old-fashioned way. We're just gonna get this icing, we're just gonna spread it. And we do have more icing. I do have the pink and the purple that my daughter really wanted me to have, or at least to make. I don't know if she wanted me to have it, but she wanted me to make it, so I need to use it for something. Okay, there we go. And that's our cake. side. Now, if you wanted to make it easier to work with, especially when you're using multiple layers of cream cheese, is you'd put this in the fridge and let this cream cheese harden so that you can work with the other colors much easier without getting it mixed up. And so that's looking pretty good. There we go, just like that. You can see our edge there is filling up pretty nice. Can't really tell it's two different cakes right now. So that's working out for us. Okay. I do have more in there. I think I need something to get the rest out. Let's see here. Look at this. There is still quite a bit of icing in here. Oh yeah, definitely enough for this one cake. There we go. And if you have little kids hanging out nearby, they would love to lick the spatula because this cream cheese icing is absolutely delicious. Okay, there we go. And we'll just spread this around a little better. And then we're going to refrigerate this so I can change colors. There we go. I'm going to smooth it out the best I can because when it hardens, I will not be able to work with it much without tearing the cake up at least. So I want to get as much finish work done on this as I possibly can. Okay, and I am no cake decorating expert. I just decorate cakes to eat and not to sell. So that is my cake right there. It looks kind of funky, but I bet it's gonna be delicious. Okay. And you can always put this cream cheese in a little pipe and do your decorations on it as well. But this is strictly for eating for the family. Well, for me anyway. I am single. I eat by myself, so I don't really have anyone to share food with right now. But hopefully soon I will. Okay. There we go. Get nice and clean. Always make sure you clean your utensils. Whether you lick them or wash them off. It's your choice. That is good. All right, now, because you're probably excited to see what it looks like and taste it, we are gonna taste this cake. Let's cut our cake and see what it tastes like. Okay. Cut right into it. Oof. I should have used a different knife. That's not gonna stick. Or at least definitely refrigerate this first. There it is. Right there. Looks very, very tender. And moist. Let's look at this. Okay. There we go. You can see the nuts inside. Oh yeah. It is very tender and still moist. So if you refrigerate this, it's not going to fall apart on you. The icing is going to stiff up on you, make it a lot easier to cut. But there you go. That is our dessert. I hope you liked carrot cake, or I hope you do like carrot cake. It is very simple to make. Most cakes are. From scratch, you don't have to go to the store and buy those pre-made mixes. It's very easy to make a cake. And the icing as well. You don't have to buy those pre-made containers full of sugar and who knows what else, all kinds of preservatives. Yeah, and this cake is definitely good for kids and adults. And as you might remember, we reduced 2 cups of sugar in our icing so that we're not adding that much sugar to this dessert, and it still tastes quite delicious. So hopefully you like it. Give me a thumbs up, and hopefully I'm making cooking and baking much easier for you.